Hi listeners, this is Stu, one of your hosts on Aliens Explored. Just wanted to have a quick chat with you before we get into today's episode, because Neil and I were finding ourselves very, very busy this time of year, especially as we're coming into December. We both tend to play a, shall we say, seasonally significant character this time of year, being of that age as actors, so we do tend to get very, very busy throughout December. So unfortunately we've had a bit of a chat and a bit of a meeting, and what we're going to do, we're going to be taking a bit of a break from Aliens Explored through December this year, but do not fear, we will be back in the new year with some absolutely cracking episodes we've got planned for you. So we'll be coming back to it nice and fresh and refreshed, and yeah, we're definitely looking forward to coming back. We will be back, rest assured on that. But yeah, during December, why not go back and listen to some of the episodes that maybe have piqued your interest. So far we've got lots and lots to choose from. So at the end of the episode, when I mention, join us next time or join us next week, it won't be next week, it will be in January when we get back to things. So I'd also like to take this opportunity to wish all our listeners very happy holidays for the season, and of course a very happy new year. Keep watching those midnight bells chime in the new year, and enjoy today's episode. Aliens Explored is a podcast exploring famous and obscure cases of UFO sightings, alien abductions and other strange events from both a believing and a sceptical perspective, whilst keeping an open mind. I'm Stu Jackson, a professional actor and amateur ufologist with a particular interest in the crop circle phenomenon. I'll be debating that otherworldly visitations are real. The truth is out there.
And I'm Neil Kelly. I'm a professional actor as well and used to work for the military as an intelligence analyst. I'll be arguing from a more doubtful point of view. I mean, it's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
The Mapimi Silent Zone lies in a remote part of Mexico and attracts many visitors with tales of strange magnetic forces and extraterrestrial activity. Indeed, the area has drawn comparisons to the Bermuda Triangle. But were these tales of supernatural phenomena just cooked up to distract public attention away from the embarrassment of an American test missile with a radioactive payload being accidentally shot into a neighbouring country? Join us on Aliens Explored as we discuss La Zona Del Silencio.
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Aliens Explored, your weekly podcast where we look at UFOs, UAPs, people significant in the UFO community, historical events, modern events, and even strange and mysterious areas. I'm one of your hosts, Stu Jackson.
And I'm your other host, Neil Kelly.
Hello, Neil. Great to see you again. How have you been keeping?
I've been keeping very well, thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, not bad at all. Keeping busy, this and that, as you do.
And any good news on the horizon? Any hope?
No, there's always hope. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you may only hope. Oh, I think the new trailer for Kenobi, the new Star Wars TV series, drops today.
Oh, okay.
That's hope right there. Very keen to see that and see what it's all about. No, just plodding along with stuff. I'm very hopeful for today's topic.
Yeah, me too. I've got I've got something to say about it.
Oh yes, you said this at the end of the last episode.
Yes, I did.
Should I be scared?
Not really. But I think I'm gonna put a clear definition of where we stand on certain things. I think
where you stand,
contention, and vis-a-vis where you stand. So,
right.
But I will reveal it as we go along.
I mean, to be fair, it's not that I'm always saying, "Oh yes, no, this is real," because I don't always.
And I don't always say, "Oh no, it's bollocks. It was just this. It's just clouds or whatever." I'm prepared to accept. Yes, there are millions of planets in the universe. Many of them probably harbouring life. There are other dimensions around us that we're incapable of perceiving with our limited senses. There could be all sorts of beings that travel between dimensions. I mean, that could be the origin of fairies and hobgoblins from the past. Although now they have a more prosaic, they become extraterrestrials.
Indeed.
But, so I'm not dismissing it out of hand.
I heard a phrase when I was a kid that's always stuck with me, that the mind is like a parachute. If it's not open, it's not working. And I like that.
And also that there's a song from there was a band called Magazine in the late 70s. And one of their lyrics was, "My mind ain't so open that anything can crawl right in." Yes, that's another one. A mind so open that everything drops out of it. Yeah, I think Terry Pratchett said something similar to that, didn't he? The trouble with having an open mind is that people always be coming to try and put things in it.
It's very true. There's a balance to be had. Definitely. Well, I like to have my opinions about things. And obviously you like to have your
I like to have mine, yes.
Well. And today we're sharing our opinions about an area of Mexico in the Mapimi Desert. Apologies to any listeners if I'm mispronouncing anything. I do apologize.
It's Mapimi.
Mapimi.
In Spanish, okay. the emphasis is always on that little accent, or on the penultimate syllable.
Right. Okay. Mapimi. Okay.
So Mexico, they would pronounce it Mexico, except they've got that little accent over the E to tell you that it's Mexico. So
okay.
I can see an accent over the final I, so I'm guessing it's Mapimi.
Forgive me. I'm going to stick with Mexico. For now, but this is an area 50 kilometers across, known as the Zona Del Silencio, or Zone of Silence. It's quite a mysterious area where you have radios not operating, you have magnetic compasses that spin around when you hold them near to rocks on the ground, and you have a variety of mysterious things that have happened. UFOs have been replete throughout the area, as even extraterrestrial contact as well. You get unusual flora and fauna in the area. It's quite a mysterious area. So I'm guessing your opinion, Neil, is going to be, yes, this is a very weird area with a lot of UFO connections.
No. For one, it's a very remote zone, isn't it? There's not many people living there, so I can see why certainly there wouldn't be cell phone cover there. I could understand why there might not be radio signals, because there just might not be any. I suppose if you're using two-way radios, why they wouldn't work. But is that really so mysterious? I mean, I think still in the city of London, if you're using Google Maps or another sat nav, it doesn't work in the city of London. You drive out Threadneedle Street, and suddenly your map starts spinning round and round, and it's telling you turn left, turn around, turn left, turn around, turn. It just gets you turn around, and it tells you to turn around again. You turn around, and it's just. Yeah,
but in London, you're talking about areas. Hang on, I'm going to address that one particular point before you move on. So in London, you're talking about areas where your phone doesn't have a view, basically, of the sky, because you've got these huge, great big steel girded skyscrapers surrounding you. So there's no clear view of the sky, or only a very narrow view of the sky. You've got huge amounts of metal surrounding you, like a what's the Tesla cage? A Faraday cage. That's the thing I was. So basically, yeah, I can understand that. But the Zona Del Silencio is a large, wide open, flat area. So you've got a perfectly clear view of the sky. Also, we're not talking about like satellite signals. We're talking here about a radio dead spot, which you don't get in London. You drive through London, your car radio is still going to pick up, Steve Wright in the afternoon, or whoever happens to be playing.
So when they're talking about radio dead spots, presumably they're saying that if you and I were in that zone and we were a mile apart with a two-way radio, it wouldn't work. We wouldn't be able to talk to each other. Not that I wouldn't be able to pick up a local radio station, because I think of plenty of reasons why I wouldn't be able to pick up a local radio station in a remote area.
Well, my understanding is both, basically. But a 50-kilometre radius for a radio transmission, that's not a big area. And if you can pick it up on both sides of the area, then it's essentially a dead zone, a dead spot.
And presumably it's not often overflown by aircraft who suddenly lose contact.
No. I mean, you do get aircraft flying over it, and you have reports of instruments going a bit mental and a bit silly. Not always. It's inconsistent for that. But you have had reports of instrument failure and such like.
Now,
from aircraft flying over.
What interested me about La Zona del Silencio is how it came up on the radar. Really, is when in July 1970, when the American military launched a test missile from the Green River Launch Complex in Utah towards the White Sand Missile Base in New Mexico in the United States, and they lost control of it. The rocket went off course, and it landed. Yeah, this is a missile, a nuclear-capable missile, landed in a neighbouring country. It was carrying two small containers of a radioactive element called cobalt-57, which apparently is used to. I've got what it's used for. When you set off a nuclear weapon, the cobalt-57 is designed to maximize the amount of contamination in the area.
Right.
So it's basically they fired a dirty bomb into a neighbouring country, and Mexico don't seem to have made too much of a fuss about it.
It was clearly accidental. It was not intended to land there in the first place. And I think that's absolutely clear. Also, it didn't detonate.
Well, no, it didn't have an explosive warhead, but it certainly contaminated the region. They had to America. It was a major operation. They had to remove They had to build a road into it, which apparently that mollified the locals a bit. That they got a new road out of it.
And they built a railway system. But that railway system is now gone. They removed it.
I read road, but
I read railway system. No,
right.
That just goes to show the incongruences of the internet.
Yeah,
and,
but can you imagine if China test-fired a missile and it accidentally landed in Taiwan, or if North Korea test-fired a missile and it accidentally landed in Japan or South Korea?
But you're talking about people who, like, that's more like, you might as well say, if Soviet Russia test fired a missile and it landed in the middle of North America. That's a little bit different to, let's say, what if a test missile was fired in Scotland here in the UK and it landed in the northeast of England?
No, it's. I mean, Mexico is a different sovereign country, isn't it? It's a non-aligned country, or it was then. It will be like firing into the Republic of Ireland, I guess.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's a better analogy. I absolutely agree with that. Two nations that are not at war and are very much allied and friendly.
Well, and certainly there's a power relationship where one has an awful lot of power. I'm sure if Mexico had accidentally fired a test missile into the United States, they wouldn't have been so sanguine about it. But apparently the Mexicans here, they accepted that it was an accident. They knew that by this time, America had nearly nuked themselves nearly a dozen times at that stage. So they were perfectly prepared to accept that it was an operation. It was the rocket was found after 3 weeks of intense search, and an airstrip was built to transport the wreckage. So it was all kept very quiet.
It was a 5-story rocket. I mean, it was not a small piece of equipment. This,
and so after the military had gone, there was talk of building a hotel in the area to encourage tourism. Now they've got this. Well, they say
put it on the map.
You say railroad. I say road. I mean, Werner von Braun himself, the Nazi rocket scientist, actually went to investigate the crash. And he was
instrumental in designing. You're talking about the Athena rocket.
This is the Athena RTV test rocket. Yeah.
Yes. He was instrumental, obviously under Operation Paperclip and what have you. Yes, it got a lot of attention to the area, and of course they would want to capitalise on that, and it became famous. And of course, the area's strange anomalies, it was then an opportunity to capitalise on that and say, look, this is not just an area that a rocket landed. It's also a very weird area anyway. You can go back to the 1930s and find accounts of it, of the strangeness being reported.
Yeah, but there was also a time a few years earlier, September 1967, a Pershing nuclear missile, crashed just south of the Mexican border, downplayed and soon forgotten.
Well, the
July 1970 was a far more serious overflight. It flew quite a long way into Mexico, and of course, it wasn't anything to do with the sun. It flew towards that area, but it was hundreds of miles beyond where it's supposed to have landed before it got anywhere near it.
Well, you say nothing to do with the area, but there is a theory that actually, it was flying over the area, and it's the area's interesting, interference, shall we say, that brought the rocket down there.
We could speculate about that, but
that is absolutely pure speculation.
The rocket was already a long way off course, at least 180 miles beyond where it's supposed to have come down.
But the thing that certainly I'm most interested in for the area is all this connection between, the strange radio dead spots, the compasses going, the strange magnetic anomalies, let's put it that way. You've got countless UFO sightings, reports of extraterrestrials, particularly of the Nordic type of extraterrestrials. These are tall, fair, tanned, look almost human, but very tall, very tanned, very blonde. When people get lost in the area, there are many reports of these beings just suddenly appearing before them and helping them, or just asking for water before going. And when you ask the locals, where do these beings come from? The only thing it says, above. That's it. Very, very well known in the area. You've got weird flora and fauna in the area. this area houses North America's largest land reptile. And again, apologies for my pronunciation or mispronunciation. Gopherus tortoise, I believe it's called.
Okay.
Why have you got all this strange flora and fauna in the area? Why have you got these radio anomalies? Why have you got these magnetic anomalies? And why so many UFO encounters?
It's definitely a strange area, but I'm looking at the Espionart website now. They said that in a recently declassified memorandum, the then National Security Advisor, who was Henry Kissinger, expressed gratitude for the patience and forbearance of the Mexican government, noting a willingness to grant clearances to assist in search efforts. And the few inhabitants of the Mapimi region proved to be equally helpful. And this is where it mentions the road. This is they took advantage of a road that was rapidly built into the desert to allow the US Air Force to deal with the fallout, to remove all the contaminated soil. And that's when the contaminated site was rechristened the Mapimi Silent Zone. And they borrowed, it says they borrowed urban myths from the Bermuda Triangle to try and reimagine it as a tourist destination. And they say it attracts visitors with tales of strange magnetic forces and extraterrestrial activity. So,
but there are reports of it that predate any of that. That's the key thing. All that I think that this rocket effectively did was drew awareness to an area that had been strange for a long period of time.
It drew awareness of it, but then they enhanced its strangeness to sort of divert attention away from this basically potentially very dangerous. I mean, that missile could have come down on Mexico City, couldn't it? Yes, or another large urban area and killed thousands of people, or at least hundreds. I guess it's not going to explode, but
when you say they enhanced its strange, what do you mean?
That once the area had been brought to public attention by this missile incident, that they started to talk up the stories of the strange history of the Silent Zone, possible UFOs and strange magnetic fields and all this kind of thing, really to divert attention, because the missile was kind of mentioned as in the first reports I read, the missile was kind of just mentioned as a backstory. So I thought, actually, that is the story. The story is the USAF accidentally fires a missile into a neighbouring country who don't seem too bothered about it, and then they suddenly there's all these stories about the strangeness of this area where it landed and possible UFOs and Bermuda Triangle type disappearances and radio's not working, all that sort of thing.
I think the missile is an important story. You'll get no dispute from me on that. But I see a very different motive, and I see a very different thing going on. To me, you've got this area with these strange things going on that nobody's ever heard of, that nobody knows about outside of it. And yes, this missile lands there, and suddenly the whole area gets a lot of media attention. Now, the people living there or living in the surrounding areas, but you're not talking about, a well-to-do area. You're not talking about a wealthy area at all. You're talking about people who struggle on a daily basis. So yes, they are going to use that opportunity to basically to do a PR job about the area. This might be an opportunity to bring some money into the area, to bring some tourism into the area. So absolutely, they're going to be using everything they can and telling people about all these strange things that are going on.
Absolutely, they are. But there's also an interest by the US government in wanting to change the story. Let's make this not a story about the Cold War arms race and the how often it's nearly brought us to disaster. Let's make this a story about the paranormal and extraterrestrial folklore, that sort of thing.
Totally. Their interests aligned on
Yeah.
that. I 100% agree. But that doesn't change the strangeness of the area.
It doesn't, but there are other strange areas on the planet as well.
There are many strange areas on the planet, and I'm very glad about it because we'll be talking about some in future episodes. And it gives us things to discuss.
Yeah. So this was the line I wanted to draw, because I know you've often said that you believe that our governments at some level have made contact with extraterrestrials, and we're being prepared. We're being sort of
That is my belief.
ready to meet them. I tend to think, on the other side of the line, I tend to think that our government is more interested in creating these stories or letting us believe in extraterrestrials to cover up either some of the really secret, nasty shit they're doing, or not necessarily nasty, but things like, if we want to test fly a new aircraft, especially one that's a revolutionary shape, like the Blackbird or the B-1 bomber, then let's just, if people start reporting it as UFO, that's all well and good. Or to cover up their massive fuck-ups.
Which are plentiful.
Yeah.
Or to detract attention from the latest scandal.
Yeah, that's that sort of thing.
We're not... So you and I, Neil, we don't see it that differently, because everything you've described there, 100% absolutely, the government will create UFO stories for those exact reasons. But I would also give you an additional reason, because to me, my belief, and it is just a belief, I've got no proof about it. There's what I would call circumstantial evidence to support what I believe, but that's exactly what it is. But yes, I do believe that the governments are in touch with extraterrestrial life. However, creating UFO events and faking UFO events actually goes a long way to what do they call it? A false flag operation? Is that the right term for what I'm thinking here? It's a way of being able to then say, "Oh, look, it's all fake." If you've got genuine UFO sort of extraterrestrials vehicles being spotted, and then you create a fake UFO being spotted,
which is shown to be a fake, then
then you discredit the whole thing. Look at the crop circle. I know I keep coming back to crop circles, but look at crop circles. Look at what they did in the 1970s when Doug and Dave, who I fucking hate, came forward and said, "Oh, look, we've been faking them all." And the media just went, "Oh, that's the answer then. They've all been faked." Well, no, they definitely faked some. There's no question about that. But they didn't fake all of them, and not all of them have the same characteristics. But the media just went, "Here's an answer. Oh, look, it's a simple answer. There you go." And I think it's trotting them out as well.
It's human nature. We want to be able to. We don't like the unexplained.
No,
we like explanations for things, and we like things to be joined up as well. We like to connect the dots, and that's where conspiracies come from. When you kind of get overzealous in connecting things that perhaps really don't have a connection.
Well, I'm doing the conspiracy the other way. I'm saying, no, the simplest answer is not always, Occam's razor does not always apply. The simplest answer is not always the correct
No, in
one.
fact, I would say Occam's razor is a very dangerous tool. That a simplistic answer is the one, that people will grab onto, but that can lead you down some very dangerous rabbit holes if you just go with the first simple answer that seems to fit.
Exactly. Exactly. And fake UFOs, I think, falls into that category. It's a very useful tool for a government to say, "Here's a fake UFO. Look, you can see this is fake." In fact, they wouldn't even need to do it, because you get, conscientious researchers who will identify, yes, this is fake footage. And it is in government's interest to have fake footage out there, because then it just discredits the whole thing. So, yeah, you and I are, we might have different opinions, but we don't see it that differently.
It's
I
a
agree with you
different
that,
facet of the same thing. Yeah,
yeah,
if we want to do something secret or we fucked something up badly, and then they suddenly find someone's reporting it as a UFO, they say, "Oh, great! Let's let that story run. Let's amplify that a bit. Make it all
absolutely,
about that." So
absolutely,
let's make the Mapimi Zona Del Silencio all about extraterrestrials and
yes.
Bermuda Triangle type mythology rather than. So, but surely it's easier to investigate the Zona del Silencio than it is the Bermuda Triangle. It's
Well,
a smaller area. It's on land.
still takes
They can.
money.
It takes money, but I'm sure it wouldn't be hard to work out why radios don't work down there.
I'm inclined to agree with you. But the problem is with places like the Zona del Silencio, the Bermuda Triangle, like with crop circles, it has been discredited and put out there. Oh, look, it's fringe, it's nut jobs, it's like, no, it's people thinking they've been abducted, and all that discrediting that has gone on over the years, that now any legitimate scientist who shows an interest in it, and I get very passionate about this with crop circles in particular, if a legitimate scientist says, I am going to investigate this thing, they get ridiculed instantly, and they automatically become discredited by association. So nobody does.
Unless they've stated their purpose is to set out to debunk the whole thing. Oh, look, I'm a scientist. I'll show you once and for all.
But that is not a scientific approach. No credible scientist will do that, because that is the opposite of a scientific approach.
Yes, I know.
That's going out there with an agenda. So yeah, I get quite fucked off about that whole thing. That these legitimate, scientifically intriguing things, and I've had people say to me, kind of off the record, that they would love to investigate crop circles from a scientific perspective, but they can't, because, I mean, for one thing, they would get discredited. For another, they can't get the funding to do it because nobody will back them. The government pays no interest in it whatsoever, which I find really bizarre, given the weirdness of the nature of these things. Suggests to me that actually they are investigating them, but on the quiet. That's a whole other topic. But more, you would think they can't get private funding because of the discrediting that's gone on.
You would think there would be a legitimate case to be made by the Department of Agriculture to say, look, we've got this phenomena that destroys crops, admittedly in relatively small numbers, but it is a phenomenon that makes crops unusable. It's a cost to farmers who are already pretty much on the financial brink already. We need to look into what's causing this. You would think there's a legitimate case to be made. We're not just investigating the paranormal. People can say, why are you doing that when there are people with no homes and people with no food?
Well, the genuine crop circles, they don't destroy the crops. That's the thing, because now I use this term genuine crop circle, non-man-made crop circle. That's a bold statement, I know, but I'm going to stick with it. That is my opinion. But it's genuine for shorthand. Genuine crop circle. The crops continue growing. It's only people walking in the crop circles.
Well, yeah,
usually without permission. Don't do that, listeners. Get permission from the farmer first. It's the people walking in the crops that actually destroys the crops and makes them unusable.
There's that, but doesn't the fact that they're lying down rather than standing up mean that they can't harvest them with the usual machinery?
There's been many cases where, if it's been inaccessible to people on foot, they just harvest them as normal. It's fine.
Okay.
Because they're not laying flat on the ground. But they're not laying flat on the ground. They're laying at a 33-degree angle.
They look pretty flat from the photos I've seen.
Usually in the photos, they've been trampled by people. And if it's a man-made one, they're definitely flat on the ground because they've been squashed by planks. But in genuine one, this is why I so want to take you out to a genuine crop circle, Neil. You will be fascinated. But so
I could trample on all the crops.
Anyway, I'm hijacking this and making it about crop circles. That's not what it's about. So we're at that time in the show where I need to ask you, Neil, the Zona del Silencio, is it an area of, shall we say, UFO interest?
It's certainly an area I would like to visit, just like I would like to go to the Burning Man Festival in Arizona, just like I'd like to go to a satanic black mass, because they sound like a lot of fun. You don't
all for
necessarily
different
have to believe
reasons,
in it.
I would hope.
All for different ones, actually. It comes down to the same reason. It's just sex and drugs, really.
I don't know how much of that there is in the Zona Del Silencio.
I bet there's a lot. I bet there's a lot gets. I bet there's an awful lot gets brought
Depends
in.
how much you take with you.
I bet peyote buttons aren't too hard to come by out there.
I don't know what that is. That's something for me to Google. Anyway. After the show, I'll be on Google. Okay. I certainly think this is a fascinating area, and I get what you're saying about the whole rocket thing and the missile, but I don't know. To me, that's just what's drawn attention to it. Nothing more than that. But what do you think, listeners? Have you visited the Zona del Silencio? Is it as strange and mysterious as we believe, or is it all a bit hyped up? Is it all a bit blown up?
Was it just annoying because your phone didn't work?
Yeah, maybe. Are there other areas across the planet that you have visited that are similar in nature? Write in and let us know.
It must be really easy to get lost there. Well, if you can't use your phone, or presumably you can't even use a compass.
Yes, there are many accounts of people being lost and being helped by extraterrestrials as a result.
Okay, worth it just for that.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
We do not recommend going out and getting lost in a desert just to test a hypothesis. Right, do not do that, listeners. Health and safety at all times. Look after yourselves. Anyway, do let us know by the usual means what you think. And you can contact us on Facebook and on Twitter by searching Aliens Explored, or you can email us at aliensexplored@gmail.com. And a quick favour to ask, why not leave us a cheeky review wherever you listen to your podcast? They really do help small podcasts like ours to get new listeners and to spread the good word. So it's very much appreciated. My goodness, that's it for this week. Join us next time when we're going to be going back only 17 years. Neil, do you remember the 2004 tsunami?
I do. I know someone who was personally caught up in it. And was very, very lucky to survive. So,
very lucky if they survived that. Well, there were UFOs spotted around the area at the time, before and during. It was a UFO hotspot, so we're going to be discussing that next time. So you don't want to miss that one. I expect Neil will have opinions about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my job. Yeah, of course I will. Yeah. Well,
it's not your
yes,
job.
I will. Yes, I will. I'll manufacture some between now and then.
No. We never
wait till I
that,
start.
listeners.
Wait till I start looking into this. I'll get worked up then.
We never manufacture things, listeners. Don't believe him. Gosh. Yes, no, we're just naturally argumentative. Do you know what? I know this is a slight digression. We shouldn't be doing this perhaps towards the end of an episode, but sometimes we listen back to these and it's like, oh my God, we sound like we're at each other's throats. Almost, don't we? We're not. We often smiling and cheerful as we do these, but we get passionate. That's what it is, isn't it, Neil?
We do. We get excited.
We do. We're very easily excitable people. And we hope you get excited too, listening to us and getting excited. Right, on that note, until next time, keep watching for those strange and mysterious areas, and of course, keep watching the skies. We will see you next time.
Look forward to it. Bye-bye.
Bye. Aliens Explored is a vigour Films production in association with Juicy Falls. Music by Darren Mafucci and editing by Stu Jackson. Find us on Twitter and Facebook by searching Aliens Explored or visit aliensexplored.com.